Hello and welcome. My name is Carsten Struckmann. I'm the lead product manager for SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh at SAP, based out of Waldorf, Germany. And well, I've been working on event-driven architecture or architectures for quite some years now already. What I would like to do today is to add an additional word there. Event-driven business architecture is what I would like to talk about. And well, I would like to start by looking at classical event-driven architecture. So the way people typically look at event-driven architecture and the advantages of event-driven architecture. In the next step, I would like to add the word business there and would like to elaborate what's different. In the next step, it's going to be SAP's event-driven world today. So our environment, our ecosystem end-to-end from a business perspective, a quick demo, and then where are we heading? What have we learned out of working with lots and lots of customers in respect to event-driven business architecture? With that said, let's quickly look at event-driven architecture. And let's look at the textbook definition first of what an event-driven architecture is. It's a software architecture. And it really involves software components. So we're talking about microservices that are loosely connected, resulting in improved flexibility, scalability, fault tolerance. If one of the event sources fails, another event source is not impacted. If one of the event consumers fails, other event consumers are not impacted. From a development perspective, you set up the infrastructure once and you can go for a full-blown DevOps approach, using incremental growth, clicking in additional event sources, additional event consumers. And then there's a real-time aspect. A significant change takes place in an event, and all the consumers get informed in real time of that change and can take action. This is what typically people see in event-driven architecture. My world, frankly, is different. Why is it different? 70 plus. What does that mean? That's actually the number of the percentage number of business processes that touch an SAP system on this planet. So of 100 business transactions, 70 of those touch an SAP system in one way or the other. So this is a completely different scale. We're talking about events in the number of billions of events right there every single day. And typically our customers tend to have very extensive landscapes. And in the past, the data was protected very, very well. So this nice little Swiss castle there with those big walls, picture the data behind there. And every time you want to access the data, you have to go through a gateway, you get authenticated, they check your authorizations, and then you're allowed to access the data. So traditional IT acted as a data custodian. Unfortunately, this way doesn't work anymore. So IT these days need to operate at the speed of business. And the speed has increased big time. So as a result, the approaches that we're seeing at our customers, they're changing as well. So state-of-the-art IT acts as a nervous system. So there's a significant change, an event happening somewhere, and it immediately gets distributed to everybody interested and everybody that needs to be informed of that significant change. So the approach has changed, the communication structures have changed, the ways of communication have changed. And well, this is, and you might have guessed it, this is supported by event-driven architecture right there. One of my customers has summarized it perfectly. After listening to a presentation about event-driven architecture, he understood and summarized it perfectly. We want our ERP to be a team player. And he does not even want his ERP itself to be a team player. He wants a CRM to be a team player. He wants to be his success factors to be a team player, and he wants them to really act together. And there's one thing that you typically say in team sports: player skills don't simply add up; they multiply. So if you manage to have your backend system, your business applications, your IoT devices play together, that's a huge potential to improve your business processes, to save money, to earn more money. And this is, in the end, what event-driven architectures are about, seen from a business perspective. Let's look at a few examples here of what customers are doing. Let's look at retail, one of the industries that's moving forward fastest because they have a certain real-time need in the picture, and on top of that, they have a lot of scale. So retail, there are a lot of real-time inventory examples. So it's very nice to know in real time what your inventory is in the store. You might be able to expose that on a website so that your customers can check on that, but as well you might want to use it for supply chain processes. Another thing that I really, really like, very, very cool use case there, situational updates. Let's assume you have a weather forecast, and the weather forecast says it's going to be raining for the next 2 weeks. It might be good if you're a retailer that you stock up on umbrellas and sell those umbrellas instead of selling things that would require sunny weather right now. Automotive is a very nice example. And this is actually an example that we have implemented at SAP internally. So we nowadays have a digital twin for our company cars. So whenever you go and charge your car, or when you go and get gas, or if you get your car repaired, events are fired, and the digital twin is updated in real time. So you can check, meaning our teams taking care of the company cars, they can immediately check what's going on with the cars and what the conditions are, and. So very nice there. Real-time HR, people joining the company, employees getting hired. These events trigger entire business processes that make sure that by the time people make it into the company for the first day, everything is set up there. So in the end, what's different in respect to the business perspective of EDAs, we're talking about business processes here. It's not microservices or software components talking to each other. It's really business software. And on top of that, and that's one thing that I consider very important, to me, this end-to-end architecture does not necessarily end with the software. It goes beyond that. Example, I was flying lately to the US, and you typically get updates when it's time to board the plane, when the plane is ready for boarding. This is very nice as a customer service. What I understood back then, and I know there's event-driven architecture behind driving this, what I understood is that on top of doing a favor to the customer to make sure that the customer is in time, as a company, I do as a flight operator, I ensure that everybody boards on time and that I don't have any delays and that I save money. So in the end, in this event-driven architecture, you take the people receiving the significant change updates, you take them into account as well. From an SAP perspective, I just want to point that out. It's really about end-to-end business processes. We have a number of big end-to-end business processes, recruit to retire, that focuses on the HR part. If you look at that, you have success factors in the picture, you have S4HANA in the picture, you have Fieldglass in the picture, lead to cash, there's subscription billing. So we're talking a lot about a lot of business applications, about a lot of cloud applications or even on-premise applications in the picture, and those have to act as a team. So in the end, our business technology platform powers this, Business technology platform is a business-centric platform that powers event-driven architecture at SAP. Important point, as said, full business processes and acting as a team there. Let's look at the business technology perspective here, and let's look at a few important points, things that are very different from the classical way of looking at event-driven architectures. And this is the main slide of this presentation, to be fully honest here. In the end, we're talking about large global heterogeneous landscapes. Globally distributed, some of our customers have 70, 80 ERP systems alone. And connecting those landscapes, given the scale of the customers, given the scale of given the load that is on those systems every day, that's already quite a challenge. And on top of that, all of those environments typically are heterogeneous. It's not only SAP in that picture. There are hypercloud providers in the picture. There are other business application vendors in the picture. So we need to connect these environments to allow for those business processes to run end to end. And while doing that, we need to cross vendor boundaries. So typically our events are cloud events format. So this joint format driven forward by a number of big vendors there. So we can exchange events with other vendors, and that happens quite often. What is nice as well from a business technology perspective, business processes change often and quickly these days. Think about COVID and think about what was happening then. You had to rewire the business processes. Event-driven architecture makes this very easy. Another thing that is made very easy is hyper-automation. So having software systems take care of most of the things without manual interference, really, without people having to work on the business process, is something that is facilitated big time. Data protection is another very important point for us. We're using a mix of notification events and data events. The data events contain all the data in certain use cases. If there is a need to protect the data by forcing, in the end, an additional API call to the backend system to go through the authentication and authorization, then we're typically using notification events. Business real-time is a very important point. Real-time, you expect an immediate reaction. For a lot of our customers, that's not necessarily needed. Quite often, and you have to keep in mind where they are coming from. They typically come from batch-driven approaches where in the evening their data was updated or during the night. So 5 minutes business real-time or 10 minutes business real-time or sometimes even 1 hour business real-time is not necessarily a problem. In some use cases, that's absolutely fine. In other use cases, you need complete and total real-time. For inventory use cases, obviously you want to be completely up to date. In other cases, business real-time is fully sufficient to be a little bit slower, delayed there. One more thing, event value and quality. In the end, the events originating from our backend systems, they have a higher value and higher quality. If you think about a sales order getting created, that's probably from a value perspective more important than a picture getting uploaded somewhere. So this event value is highly important. The quality of the events is highly important. And typically there is less noise. So in some IoT scenarios, 80% of the events that get fired are simply ignored. That's usually not the case for us. Business events are important and usually a reaction takes place. And very important point right here, we typically mix event-driven architecture with other approaches. So event-driven architectures are absolutely great for the business environment. They allow to solve a lot of problems. They don't allow to solve every single problem. So we combine event-driven architecture with traditional integration approaches as well. Let's look at SAP's event-driven world today. And the main point here is that the eventing infrastructure, the broker, the mesh, they are just the tip of the iceberg right there. So the part that is really important are the business applications, the business processes that expose the events. And on the other side of the picture, the event consumers, making it possible to consume events in a very easy way. And we're doing that. And this is a quick look at our event sources, and you can see quite some there, our eventing infrastructure and our event consumers. In respect to the event sources, you can see that most of our backend systems, most of our business applications are event enabled. They are event enabled in different ways. Typically, they expose cloud events format. You can send notification events, data events. They are standard events typically. Usually backends allow for the creation of custom events, but it's quite a list. S4HANA, S4HANA Cloud, ECC as an older backend ERP, being empowered to expose events using an add-on. SuccessFactors, you can use the intelligent services events, Fieldglass using an add-on, and so on. And needless to say, we can consume third-party events as well. On the event consumer side, you see SAP Integration Suite, you see SAP Build, our low-code, no-code platform, a number of BTP services and apps. And very important, SAP backends can not only be event sources, they can be event consumers as well. So S4HANA Cloud, S4HANA, and ECC can be used as event consumers, so inbound works there. Eventing infrastructure, we do offer two brokers there. There's SAP Event Mesh for basic use cases, and then there is SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh, which is the enterprise-grade, sophisticated, distributed offering that we highly recommend to use, and that we're working on to fully integrate with this entire SAP event-driven world here. At the bottom, you can see there's a lot of learning material as well. I would highly recommend the Discovery Center missions. With that said, let's now look at an end-to-end scenario, and let's look at a quick demo there.
What you see here is the API Business Hub, api.sap.com. It allows you to look up available standard events for SAP backends, and we'll do that for S4HANA right now. We'll look for events, and I would like to look at sales order events here. We're going to search for them. We're going to click on the tile, and this is what you see here. The following events are available: sales order created, changed, deleted, and sales order item level, item created, and so on. We can look up the event reference and can look at the payload. So you can see a number of fields that get exposed here. Now that we have looked up the sales order event in API Business Hub, let's see how easy it is to add sales order events to an existing infrastructure. And what you see here is an S4HANA cloud system. You can see that I have already configured business partner events to get exposed from this backend system, from this business application. Now I will quickly add sales order events as well. We're filtering for sales order events. You can see that there are roughly 500 events in here. I will just mark sales order events, click create, go back to the overview page, and now you see it's business partner and sales order events from the S4HANA cloud system that get exposed. Now that we have seen how to expose events from S4HANA, let's look at SuccessFactors. And for that, let's go to the Intelligent Services Center. And once you go there, you can already see a list of events, quite a number here that you can use. In order to expose events from SuccessFactors, you go to the integration center and then you choose an integration type. You pick intelligent services for the trigger type, you pick REST for the destination type, SuccessFactors for the source type, and then JSON as the format. Next, you would pick your event of choice. Let's pick employee hire, and you would then move forward by selecting the different fields that you want to be included. Click on select and walk through a number of steps to configure the fields that will get exposed, configure the response fields, define filters, add the destination settings, meaning the event broker to which the event gets exposed to, and then review and run your setup. Let's have a quick look at SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh, and this is what it looks like. You have 3 sections: event management, event streaming, and event insights. You have the cluster manager, in which you would spin up new brokers. You would, in the end, select different t-shirt sizes. You would select the cloud that you would want to deploy the broker into, and then you would select a region. With the Mesh Manager, you are capable of building full-blown event meshes. And you do have other features like the event insights part, where you can really drill into what's going on in your event mesh and follow up on that. Let's wrap the demo part up with a SuccessFactors-based scenario. You can find the scenario in GitHub and SAP sample, so you can implement it yourself. The idea that is that a change in employee location event gets raised from SAP SuccessFactors. This actively informs a facility manager that an employee is transferred into the region that the facility manager is responsible for. Facility manager receives the event in an extension application and then can take next steps like making sure office space is available, making sure a workstation is available. As said before, you can find this scenario in the SAP samples on GitHub, so feel free to try it out. The QR code you can see on the right-hand side and the link at the bottom of this page.
Good. Now that we have seen the demo, let's look at what we have learned and where we're heading to even address the issues, the challenges, the needs of our customers in a better way. And I like this slide here because it pretty much explains where we are in respect to event-driven architectures and event-driven business architecture. On the left-hand side, on the upper left-hand side, you see a little cabin in the Norwegian wilderness. You can just fire a few events there. Light gets switched on, light gets switched off, jacuzzi full, jacuzzi empty, water hot, water cold. Typically, this is what our customers start with. Then they develop towards this Austrian mountain village right there. And there you have to put structure in. There are probably more event sources already. There are different vendors in the picture. You really have a lot more events, and this is where typically the front runner customers are. In future, we will head to the big city up there. So way more events that can get fired, way more peak loads. Think about everybody getting to the office in the morning, switching the lights on there. And well, very frankly, you will not be able to address all of that only with an event-driven architecture. So it will be a combination. And this is our picture, our view of the event-driven world tomorrow in respect to SAP. So on the left-hand side, you see SAP Cloud Solutions. They will expose extensible standard events. So you will be able in seconds to switch on standard events that you can look up on the API Business Hub, api.sap.com. You will be able to adjust those to your needs. So So you can shrink them, you can add additional fields. Very easy. This is going to be the option for the cloud solutions for on-prem. For the new on-prem backend, SAP S/4HANA, you will be able to use those extensible standard events as well. For older backends, namely ECC, you will be using the event enablement add-on that allows you to create custom events. Then there's SAP Integration Suite at the center of all of this. It will allow for event brokering. There's going to be SAP Event Mesh as a part of Integration Suite. There's going to be event bridging, allowing to pass on events to selected third-party event brokers, crossing vendor boundaries there. And then there's SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh. It is about scale. It is about a full-blown event mesh, about distribution, about advanced features like distributed tracing, like filtering, like event replay, and so on. So this is the enterprise-grade offering there. And Integration Suite in the middle of this, the beauty is, over time, you will combine event-driven approaches with more traditional approaches. And I do believe there's quite some potential there. And with that said, if you want to get started, there is quite some learning material there, like blogs and background information. They are ready to run missions. These are in the end projects containing code, containing everything that you need in the SAP Discovery Center. And in the end, what you need to do is simply try things out. And thank you very much for listening to this presentation. And it was a pleasure presenting to you.